Hello, I'm Janet Hinker, and I'm happy to welcome you today to our Women Fantasy Author Series. Today, I'm speaking with Holly Bernabe, who has just recently released her novella, By Her Grace, and we're going to be talking about that today and her other works. So welcome, Holly.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. I'm glad you could come. Um, I wanted, before we start talking about your new release, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about your background. I was fascinated to learn that you have a BA in film with an emphasis in screenwriting. And so tell us a little bit how about your background and how you moved into writing fiction.
Well, I've always been into stories. I started writing stories when I was little. I think my first one, I think I was seven-ish, and I wrote a story full of irony and horror and woe about a 9 foot tall celery stick that was following me home, and he was going to eat me because I eat him. Yeah, it was. I mean, I was seven, so and I didn't like celery.
Yeah.
Um, but that love of writing stories never left. I have I've done that, either written short stories or have participated in storytelling kind of things through either role playing or a friend of mine was a filmmaker. He made little short films and things, and it was the only hobby that I knew of that drew in all of the friends, and we all would participate. And that got me thinking about filmmaking, and oh, I have an idea for a script. And he says, I don't have time to do it, you're gonna have to do it on your own. And I was like, I don't know how. So that was ultimately what got me into the whole filmmaking degree, because like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right, I'm going to learn how to do this. And but I found I was again drawn more to the stories rather than the process.
Right.
And after my degree, I volunteered a lot. I made a short film, and uh, then, of course, you can only volunteer for so much before the reality of having bills sort of goes over your head. So I went back to work in non-film related activities, and it took a while, but I got back into writing again after my husband died during the pandemic, because there wasn't anything better to do. I was just bored to tears, and I had all this time and I couldn't go anywhere. So I started with 16 episodes of a TV series, fantasy TV series, and I was like, this isn't enough, actually. I want more. So I then took those 16 episodes and turned it into 3 novels, all in about 16 months, about, for all of that.
So is this what we're getting the prequel for in your
Yes.
novelette? Is this series, and you've got 3 books coming up? Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, are there skills that you have as a screenwriter that you feel have helped you as you're writing your stories? Some strengths that are translatable and that have helped you?
Yeah. Strengths and weaknesses, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
As a screenwriter, I think dialogue and character building really followed me well into novel writing.
Right.
A lot of my books are dialogue, and they tend to be punchy, short scenes, going from one thing to another to another. And so I never have any problems with things being slow paced. Well, I can't say never, but it doesn't happen a lot. Um, but likewise, I have more problems with coming up with like setting descriptions and those little details and things, because in a script you leave that for the costume designer and the location scout person and the director and the actors. They decide how they're going to move, so you don't focus on those things. And learning to incorporate those back into the novel writing was, and still is, challenging.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to say that having read By Her Grace, I think you've done a really fabulous job setting up the scene. I think the scenes are very rich. You can for me reading it, I could visualize the
Oh,
scenes. etc. So I think you're doing very well with that. So let's jump into talking about the story. I think what I'd like to do is read the blurb. Shall I do
Yeah.
that? So let me read the blurb that you had posted up for your novelette. Halfling chef Paisley Dell lives in Aspenwood, a small town at the meeting of two major trade roads. The Dells own the Rosebud Inn and are pillars of the Halfling community. Paisley is happy, but something is missing. She feels unfulfilled and restless. On her becoming day, she meets a mysterious young human, pregnant and on the run, and through her, Paisley glimpses a world she desperately wishes she could know, a world of spice, elves, and exotic faraway places. As their friendship grows, with every recipe Prilani teaches her, Paisley's desire to save her from her pursuer grows too. Paisley must make some life-changing choices and face terrible danger. Is the risk worth it? So tell us a little bit more about the halfling.
Oh, well, Paisley is someone who loves her community, is very loyal to them, and her Aunt Higgy, who gave her the opportunity to be in the inn, she's made her her heir, and so she feels a big responsibility, and that weighs heavily on her. She feels like she has big shoes to fill because she adores her aunt, and so she has a lot of responsibility, and that's hard on her because she really would like to maybe be doing something else right now.
Yeah. Well, I want to say that one of my very favorite things about the story is your use of food and cooking and how that builds the friendship. And it's such an integral part of the story. I wanted to share the book cover because I want to talk just a little bit about that. Let me do that. Now, this, I love it. And you can see that clearly. And on the cover is a big iron skillet. So it is featured in the story, and I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about its history and why it's important without giving us any spoilers.
Well, the pan is an heirloom passed down to Paisley on her becoming day. That is basically the day that someone becomes an adult, sort of like the age you turn 21 here in the United States. It's a big deal. It was given to her by her great grandmother, and it's been in the family for generations. And she's heard stories about this pan, and good cookware is valuable no matter where you are, even now. I mean, everyone loves their favorite cookware. So she's very excited to get this pan. And it represents, family history, especially for the women who are doing the cooking in the family. So, yeah, she's very happy to have it.
Yeah, great. And it's special in other ways too. So you'll have to read the story to find out
Yep.
about that. So as I was reading and starting the story, and I have to say it reminded me a little bit of the Shire with the hobbits and how they're living their very lovely country life, enjoying family, friends, and good food until something shifts the story in a whole nother direction. So I'm
Mhm.
wondering, is Paisley, as the story moves forward, is she headed for a similar grand epic quest or heroine's journey, as they call it?
It's funny you should mention that, because when I sent out my story, the series in particular, out to my readers, beta readers and whatnot, I asked them to give me comp titles that it reminded them of, and they always told me Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings,
Oh,
Lord of the
okay,
Rings.
okay,
And I was like, but I'm not Tolkien, and I would never ever claim that I am.
right.
I don't write at all like him. My writing is much lighter. But I understand why they say that, because the characters are very well. I mean, I don't want to tell you too much about what's coming, but
Yeah,
yes, they quests, quests, sword and sorcery, fantasy, you know, with mixed races, elves and dwarves and orcs and that whole thing. So Yes, it's like Tolkien in that respect.
Well, it's interesting because with your words and you painted a picture of the community and the people and the party that was going on, and that's sort of the scene I saw in my head. So even though you, like you say, you aren't a Tolkien, you're not writing like him, but there's still that same sense of scene that I got when I was
Yeah,
reading that work. So
yeah.
so good for you. That's
Well, thank
great.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. It's such a it's such a little taste we get in your novelette. So I'm really looking forward to reading the rest. And I'm wondering, oh, I wanted to ask you, because of the baking and cooking, are you a chef? I mean, do you cook a lot? Is that part of why that got rolled into your writing?
I like to cook when I have people to cook for, kind of
Mm,
like Paisley in that respect. She loves to
mm.
cook for people. It makes her feel good to see them enjoying her food. I like to do that too when I'm entertaining. Not at home. Home cooking
Yeah.
is boring. Blah.
Yeah.
Husband, however, wanted to be a chef,
Oh,
um, and so this is sort of a nod to him,
yeah. Well,
and
that's beautiful. And
yeah,
I'm
what he
sorry you
wanted to be.
lost him. And
Yeah.
I know he's got to be very proud of where you've taken this, I'm sure.
I think he would have been. I think he would have had a serious kick out of all this stuff that I've been
Yeah.
writing. I mean, there's definitely bits
Yeah.
of him in there and bits of me, and he would see
Yeah.
that. He would probably
Yeah.
laugh.
Well, I like the fact that you've taken a character that's I'm not going to say she's like an everyday character, but she is like us, like a lot of us. And she's not a warrior. We don't see her out battling with swords, yet she still has a strength of character that's going to take her away from everything that she knows and have adventures. So it's nice to see a young woman character that's more maybe common, that's still okay. She still has something to offer, and there's things for her to solve and things for her to see, instead of having to be like this brave warrior heading out. And I like that about the story too. It's like you said, it's more of a gentle moving in. I mean, not that there's not some drama in this piece and some things that happen. uh it's an interesting character. I'm gonna enjoy watching her grow.
Oh, thank you.
What is,
She's I wrote her because I want to see more kindness in the world.
hmm,
Kindness, empathy, compassion, those are Paisley. She comes from a place of love first.
right.
That's the way she is. And she brings that to everyone and wherever she goes, even people who she would not necessarily even like. She tries to treat with compassion and understanding. And and I want to see more of that, which is why I wrote that character.
Right. I think it comes through, and I think it's going to be a nice take on a fantasy story. What has been the most challenging thing for you as are you, oh, first of all, how far do you have this, are you done? Are you putting the pieces together? Are the three books ready?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I have learned I will never ever write 3 books in a row without making sure that I have completely edited and completed the first one, and then the
Mm,
second, and then the third. Never, because as I'm editing and updating book 1, I'm realizing, oh, that means that this is going to have to change in book 2, which
oh,
means this is going to
yes.
have to change in book 3. And it's this cascading domino effect. And so I'm trying now to finish book 1, and I'm almost done with that. And then that means I'm just going to have to completely redo book 2, redo book
Got it.
3, giving
Got it.
myself a whole lot more work.
Yeah.
Never again.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So
Nope.
do you consider yourself a pantser then? Or
Oh
now
no,
are you more of a plotter?
no, I'm a plotter. I
Okay.
plotted all of this stuff out, but when you plot it out and you write it, there's always things like that you don't think of, and beta readers will point out and say, this doesn't make sense," and then
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I need to fix that, and then fixing that fixes something else, and then something else happens, and it's like, oh my gosh, oh, like writing the prequel after I'd written all the other books, then meant I had to go through book 1 again, because
Oh,
so much
yeah.
happened in the prequel that needed to be addressed in book 1 that hadn't been. And so I gave myself more work inadvertently.
Yeah. So anybody that's listening to this interview that's just a fan and a reader is going to start getting an idea about what it takes to put out something like this. For those of us that are writing fantasy series, it's a slog. It can be a slog.
Oh,
The fun
absolutely.
part can be the ideas and the story rolling forward, but then this is where the real work comes in. Um,
Mm.
I was in an elevator with some friends at Baycon here in the Bay Area, and I mentioned to one of the guys I had just heard Becky Chambers read from her new work, and I was like I was just like gaga, and oh, her work is so good. She's so good, and it's small. And he looked at me and he said, "She's good because she did the work," and I went, "Oh, okay." Yeah, she's really talented. But then I got what he was saying. She's worked on this for, for a very, very long time to make it as good as it is. And so that's the challenge of being a good writer. And before you get your stuff out in the world, we're all trying to make it as good as we can. So
Yeah, I think I'm on like on draft number 3,562
yeah, I
or
mean,
something.
I know, I know. And
It's ridiculous.
at some point you have to say, I'm done. But I can't help it. I keep opening up the draft and making changes, but I'm gonna have to finish at some point.
Yeah.
What was easy? Was there a part that you find really easy about?
Um, Actually, the writing of it was the easiest because I since I am I already had it in the scripts, and the scripts were based off of a an outline that I was following very
Yeah.
from my schooling, so it was very easy to follow. And then I used the scripts as sort of like my outline, my beats for the stories and the books. And so that was the easiest part for me. um the hardest part is doing all of the editing and the rewriting, and then of course marketing is never, that's not my thing. And
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
the
I
business
know.
part.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna make an attempt to find an agent. I mean, I have big plans because I want to try everything in terms of the publishing industry. And of
Mhm.
course, I'm also educating myself about what it means to self-publish because that's what a lot of us end up doing because
Yeah.
it's important that we get our work out.
Mhm.
The window of opportunity for authors is very, very small, and you have to be, I mean, it's just it's remarkable what you have to do to actually get picked up for
Yeah.
with the contract. So I'm being realistic, and but I do want to try the whole process. So we'll see. I want to share your information before we close out here, so people know how to contact you, and
Mhm.
also you still have a free copy downloadable still available for at your
Yes.
website. Okay, let me get this
Yes, at the
straight.
end of the month, right now it's on Book Funnel, but in a promo, it's free with a bunch of other books.
Yeah.
Or you can sign up for my newsletter and just get it directly that way.
Okay.
But after the end of this month, I intend to put it on Amazon, and I will probably be doing Kindle Unlimited for it.
Okay.
So if you don't get it now, you can look for it on Amazon next month sometime.
Okay. Great. The next book coming out is Cooking Up Magic. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're due when is that? When is do you have a target date for that?
My target date is August 20th. So
Great. Okay.
that was my husband's birthday.
Oh, oh. And what was his name?
Micah. Yeah.
Micah.
Yep.
What that's wonderful. That's a wonderful homage to him. I really
Yeah.
appreciate the sentiment of that. That's very sweet. I'm trying to think if I have any last questions. What you are working full time and doing all of this is I'm amazed. And how when you sit down to write, do you kind of go away into your own world? Do you hear the voices in your head? What's your process?
um, well, yes, I do kind of go into my own world. Like I will be so intent at my keyboard and I will be writing that this all just fades into the background. I don't know what they're doing unless they're like Holly, Holly, Holly.
Mhm.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
so yes, I really zone out. I really get into it. I do hear the voices in my head. I wish I had the ability to do accents, because if I did, I would do readings, and all of the characters in my books are from different countries with different ways of speaking. And
Yeah.
I can't do accents to save my life. So it's just like, oh, why did I have to write a book with accents?
I couldn't do it either. I couldn't do it either. I'm just that's not a talent of mine. It would be
Yes.
fun. It would be fun. I think your story would be really wonderful in an audiobook if somebody
Oh,
having the ability to do those voices, because it's such a I don't want to say cozy story, but they are using that term now in terms of fantasy, calling
yeah.
this is cozy fantasy, which is a new term to me. And one of the women in my writers group says, "Well, Janet, you kind of do that because she has said I do something very similar to you. The home scenes with family and people are very vivid." So
Mhm.
not I don't see that as a weakness. I see it as a
Oh.
strength. So yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely, because that's a big part of our lives,
it
and
is.
it,
Yeah,
and not showing that I think is kind of strange. Unless, I mean, of course, some characters in other books they don't have that, and that makes
yeah.
sense. But just to sort of gloss over something that's a huge part of people's lives is just kind of
Yeah.
strange.
Well, I get can get tired of too much battling and gnashing of
Yeah.
teeth and sword fighting. I like to have the story and the people's lives information
Mhm.
filling out the story. So I believe you're
Yeah.
doing that really well.
Thank
Um,
you.
okay.
Yeah, it
Holly,
was so much fun. It was so
it
much fun
was. I'm so glad
to write.
we decided to do this. I'm really looking forward to getting the book when it comes out in August. I will be promoting you wildly. And I wish you all the best with that. Please let me know if
Thank
there's
you.
something I can do to help. All right,
Absolutely.
Holly, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye.